Everyone, it's Dr. Judith Briles, and we're back for another awesome episode on AuthorU, your guide to book publishing, our podcast. And as always, I love to start with a quote from my book, which I love to share, that Snappy, Sassy, Salty Success. So over 400 of my own personal quotes to keep me going. I love it when I see someone with the book, they actually rip them out, and I went in someone's office one time and they had them taped to the wall with their goosers and their reminders. All right, so today I'm gonna lead with, if an author doesn't believe that he or she has the power to deliver the right words within the body of their work, who else will? So our topic today is going to be kind of cool. I think something we haven't done. We have a fabulous guest we have never had the privilege of having with us today. And as I always like to start a show, to thank our sponsors with NZ Graphics and Nick Zellinger, who is an awesome, awesome author, book designer for both interior and exteriors. I can't talk today, exteriors. And Rebecca Finkel of fpgd.com, who not only does book designing and incredible covers, but the swag that goes all along with it to increase your visibility, especially for author events. With that said, here's where we're going today. And as you can see, we have a guest with us today, and it's Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Now, she has quite a resume, and she not only does she have her own podcast, but she has a global TV studio with over 60 different shows. I mean, is that not amazing? She's the president and chief executive officer, actually listening officer, because we're talking about listening today and the art and the power of it, of the USA Global TV and Radio. It's an award-winning global media network broadcasting over 8,100 shows to over 40 countries. She's a certified elevated listening trainer. She's a keynote speaker, and she is an Amazon #1 bestseller. The Listening Mentor, I'd highly recommend to all of you. And she's on a mission to transform the way you and the world listens, connects, and communicates. Dr. Jacalyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here today.
So we're going to have fun. I always love listening, and I'm always amazed at the lack of listening that goes on. My experience is a lot of times people are so busy trying to figure out what they're going to say that they don't hear what's coming at them right then. And I'm sure you have much more to add to that. But your thing is elevated listening. So why don't we just kind of start with that? What is it?
I usually ask people that when they take my class. I'll say, is elevated listening standing on a chair? Is it me looking down at you and I'm higher than you? But basically, I look at it in 4 areas. The first is listening without interruption, listening without problem solving, listening without stage hogging, and and listening without judgment. And those individually have one meaning. We put them all together. If someone's doing all of those things at the same time, it's impossible to listen. So it actually, to me, is a platform that we've launched our television network off of. So all of our TV show hosts have to be certified as elevated listeners, meaning that when they're interviewing their guests, they have no script, they have no personal questions that they're going to be asking. They're following where the guest wants to take the interview.
Well, how delightful. As I've been on a number of shows myself where I have seen them, the host has the interviewer has their own agenda, and they can bamboozle you. I mean, they can get you off. And of course, there are techniques that we can do to get it back on track very quickly. But wouldn't it be better if they didn't start that way?
It's absolutely true. I've seen 2 issues in the mainline press with A-list celebrities who had some new project or something coming out, and the interview was supposed to be about that. And instead, in both cases, unrelated, the interviewer made the whole crux of the interview about something that they wanted to know about. And in both cases, the stars walked off and said, that's not what we agreed to. So maybe that was to create some drama. I'm not really sure, but we don't want to have that kind of drama on our television network. We want everything to be about hope and inspiration and peace.
Oh, well, who has the time to waste to do the walk off? I mean, I would, and I did a roll off. I have to share. I was on. Do you remember when Geraldo had his daytime show?
Absolutely.
Right, and and this was going to be on my book dealing with toxicity in the female-dominated workplace. And they introduced me, and I had brought a couple of the other guests with me, and so you're on the stage with the chairs, and our chairs had wheels on them, little rolly wheels. And they introduced me, and I went, "Say what? What? I'm not a relationship expert on why women steal other women's spouses." And I'm sitting there, and I leaned to the woman on my right, who was one of the people who had been featured in my book, and I said, "You know, the fifth step of rebuilding one's confidence is to assess the situation, and I am assessing that this is the wrong fit for me." And Jacalyn, I started my heels rolling back away, away from the group. We went to an instant commercial, and the producers were right up and they, "What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah." And I said, "This is not who I am. This is not what I do. This is not what I committed to come and talk about." So they agreed to do a redirect. So Geraldo comes back in and said, "We made an error in introducing Dr. Judith," and blah, 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 blah. And off we went. But it was kind of like, what do you do in those situations? So for me, I started wheeling off.
Good for you. You were setting a boundary.
And it was because I haven't thought about that situation in I can't tell you how many years.
That's an example of somebody just giving an introduction that doesn't apply, and you saying no. You're putting your hand up and saying, "Hey, that's not me." And you actually controlled the situation, and then they did a do-over. So congratulations.
Yeah, they had to do a do-over. Well, thank you. But I just said, I can't sit here and go, blah, blah, blah.
And some people would have just gone on with it and then acted like the whole time inside they were festering, and so they couldn't actually be listening to what the interviewer is going to be saying, because the whole time they're thinking, "That's not me. I don't want people to think that's me." And so anyway, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. That also brings into mind someone else who was just recently interviewed on a TV show in Los Angeles. And I see, and I would love your comment. And I know I want to get back to your 4 areas because these are so critical, and I want you to repeat them again. That uh, they had like bar stools, and they're going to put all their guests or her up on a bar stool to be interviewed. Now she's a very attractive woman. She has great looking legs. She's slim. She's got all the elements that some of them want, but it was so wrong fit for the credibility of what she was talking about and all that. And I said, "What did you do?" Because I'm instantly saying, "I'm not getting on that damn bar stool."
Mhm.
Um, but because I don't sit on bar stools. And I had one of those situations when, do you remember the host Mike Douglas from years ago?
Of course.
Okay, I was on his show, and they had planned it all up, and I said, "I would love to talk with you and do the add-on with the rest of your guests, but I need to sit in regular chairs. I want regular chairs. I'm not going to be dangling. I mean, sometimes, I'm not super tall. I can't just slide and some of those are tall." And they did the change. But I said, "I'm not going to do it." So she said, I asked, "What did you, well, I just did it." And when I watched the review, um, it, I couldn't even hear her voice. It was hard for me to listen to her because I was so mesmerized by how she was moving her legs to keep them together to do whatever because she was not comfortable. So, and I'm noticing they're doing more of these interviews on a higher elevation, and I don't get it. So maybe you can enlighten me or tell us what to do when these cases come along if the ear in alive.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because I've also noticed some interviews being conducted in that way. And I think to myself, it looks so awkward because all of a sudden you have in the middle of the space, you have these bar stools and people are trying to get up there. And it's not easy to get up
And
on
wiggle
there
on.
anyway.
Yeah,
It's not
and wiggle on.
comfortable. And then to your point, you have to worry, are your legs clear? Are they crawl? Are they... So I don't understand it because you would think you want to create an atmosphere that people feel comfortable and they feel safe, that they want to be able to share instead of focusing on the environmentals.
Exactly. All right. So sorry, everyone, I digress, but I think you're going to see this. You're going to see this happen in some of the things. And since we have a vision expert, and what Jacalyn didn't tell me is that she did makeup for a gazillion years. Um, so, and here I am. She's all gussied up, and I'm kind of my plain Jane self, but that's what I do. All right. Let's go back to those your four elements. If you will just repeat those, I think for our
Absolutely.
listeners, and we'll get going again here.
Fantastic. So listening without interruption,
Hmm.
listening without problem solving,
Oh,
listening without stage hogging, and listening without judgment.
all right. So essential, all of those, everyone. And I guess maybe we should make that a little a quiz for all of you who are listening and watching. Do you listen without interrupting other people? Do you listen without trying to fix it right away? Are you going to get in and give your two bits before everything else, and then the no judgment? So critical. What great steps to start with. Right. So, how is that working? You're global, you're all over the world. How does that work when you throw that to other cultures?
That is a great point because I just taught one of my courses, Setting Boundaries and Asking Permission. I taught it in London in June, and
Mhm.
there were people from different parts of the world. And
Mhm.
I was made aware of the fact that in certain countries, for example, you do not look someone in the eyes. You look down, you
Yes.
look up, you look
Oh, yeah.
here. And
Hmm.
also in some cultures, it's not appropriate for people to listen without problem solving because then it's almost as though they don't care because they're not offering some kind of solution. So it was very interesting because these two women who were from one specific area had not been in a class. I had not had anyone in a class from that country before. So we talked about it and how actually could some of these techniques work in their country so that they wouldn't cause any issues with the senior members of the family or the men in the family, et cetera. So that really was interesting. But what I really took away from the feedback was that everyone wants to feel safe and wants to feel heard. And when I say safe, what I mean is that you can share with me how you feel, and I'm not going to attack you. I'm not going to label you with a name. I'm not going to show body language. What, oh, really? And make you feel unsafe.
The body language is always wonderful, you know, and that includes everyone eye rolling.
That's a big one.
It is.
Absolutely. And
Right.
sometimes I just had someone in one of my courses, she was rolling her eyes while someone was speaking. And so I had to call it out because I set this stage before the class began. And I said, we have two people here who are going to be witnessing your behavior because we are in a listening course. That's why you came here to learn. So we're going to provide feedback if you're open to it. And people said they were. So we said to this one woman, Do you realize that you continuously roll your eyes when other people are speaking? And she wasn't aware of it, but we had been filming it. So we said we would send her a clip with her doing it. And so we heard back from her later, and she was horrified that she had been doing that. She had no idea.
And here's the other side. No one ever said anything about it before.
Correct.
You know. So then you start thinking, well, how much business have you lost because of that behavior or rejection or never getting to know someone because they think you're an A1 jerk with your behavior?
Correct. Correct.
So,
And for me, when I first started teaching my classes, I felt uncomfortable because of the feedback I was getting from people when you would call them out on something and then they defend it, they justify it. And so I would let themselves literally talk themselves into a wall. And finally, when they're back there, it's okay. Do you realize that you are not listening? You are judging, you're labeling, you're being defensive, and all of these things are coming across. And your classmates have seen it, I've seen it, and we don't even know you. So, the people you're with all the time, what is your behavior doing to them, because then they're having a reaction, sort of like dominoes. And so it's interesting because it actually comes to the crux of a dysfunctional relationship, that people are so used to these types of behaviors and then they reciprocate in some way, whether it's
mhm.
feeling small and shallow, like you're invisible and no one sees you, and then your self-esteem because you're constantly being shut out by your partner.
Oh, that's a tragedy, in many ways. So maybe how many marriages could we save? How many relationships could
Wait,
we
doctor, I have a funny story if I may share it with you.
please?
So one of these other courses I was teaching, there was a husband and wife who came in, and she was very vocal. We do a lot of role plays, and she'd have her hand up almost every time she wanted to do a role play. So by the end of the course, which was several weeks, she stood up and she looked at her partner, her husband, and she said, I have decided as a result of taking this class that I no longer wish to be married to you. You are this and you are that and you are this and you are that. And it was so interesting because it was basically politics. He was on one side, she was on the other side. And one of the team members said, have you not heard anything? You took this entire course and you have decided that you were labeling your partner. And she said, no, I've decided to set a boundary. And that's what the course is about. I've set a boundary that I don't want to be with him anymore. And that was it. They walked out separately. So that was kind of, so these courses do have an impact on people in some way if they're willing to put themselves out there and actually participate, as opposed to
Mm,
just soak in the
mm.
information, not do anything with it.
Well, I mean, I love what you're sharing here because it is so critical. Communications is always at the crux of so many things as we go along. So let's tie this to authors. All right, now we've been generic, and I I had a similar situation. I was teaching a class on money, and one woman just stood up and she says, "I've had it with the bastard. I'm getting a divorce," and she walked out. You not to, I mean, it as a presenter, you get hit with so many things, and maybe we need to find out more about your listening courses before we leave. Are these are they all in person? Do you do them online? Are these Zoom events at all, or
So they are all the above. So we do them in person, which I love because of the role plays, but we
of
actually
course?
host them live on
Mm,
Zoom and on Eventbrite. And then we have our courses are on a platform called Thinkific, and people can download on demand.
hmm. Well, that will be fun, and so we'll lead them all to your. Which website would they best start the trickle down of finding what you have? Go
All
to.
of our websites are connected. We have five, but they can go to usaglobaltv.com, and then everything is there. drjacalyn.com, elevatedlisteners.com, amazingadventuresofladyella.com. They're all there together.
Ooh, ooh, Lady Ella. Now, where is Lady Ella? We'll go into that. All right, let's come back to
Okay.
authors. So, what are some of the crucial tools that you think that authors, and maybe there's different scenarios you could be thinking of, whether it's um, in-person events they're doing, it could even be at a book signing. I mean, actually, book signings are critical for listening. So, but what other elements could they bring in for? So when they're dealing with media professionals, which you're an expert in for sure, for even a book club, help me out here.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to you because when you and I had our first conversation and you asked me the name of one of my books and you went on to Amazon and you looked at it, you're like, oh no, no, no. And I took that feedback to heart. So first thing, be open to feedback and don't take things so personally. So as a result of you taking your time to speak to me, I actually have a second edition of Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening that is now out. And so I don't even have a
Whoa.
copy of it yet. It'll be sent to me, I think, on the 13th or 14th. But if somebody has expertise like you do, and you actually gave me information without charging me, you from the goodness of your heart went right to the book sample and you caught things that all these other eyes have seen. And as a result of that, I've reached out to people and said, by the way, the word forward in a book has an E. And by the way, you have your publishing company as your business or your business name. We now have Elevated Listeners Press as a result of my conversation with
Nice.
you. So I think listening to feedback is definitely important. Being coachable is important. And then this is one that I think, I need some help with because I've made this mistake a few times, is hiring entities to represent you for social media or book signings. And I've gotten burned a few times because we've had people on as guests and they come across as very credible. They've got a beautiful website and it's clickable and you go there and there's references. And then it turns out that they don't actually deliver on what they say they're going to deliver. So just a quick side note to that. We have a show called The Corner Bookstore, and I'm truly amazed at how many times an author comes on and they have no website. No website.
Stunning. Stunning.
It's crazy. And they have social media presence, but they're not on LinkedIn, which I don't ever understand that because you're an author, but you're a business person, aren't you?
I got a great tip from someone on LinkedIn on that. Well, a couple of things, but that on LinkedIn, and I'm a big believer in LinkedIn. I'm sure you have a gazillion followers on your LinkedIn profile. I was looking at the numbers and mine is like just under 17,000 and I'm looking at them and I have a brand new book. You know what I did? And this is for you with do this one for you with your new book cover and change little changes here that under the jobs, your skills and jobs on the LinkedIn profile, I'm going to encourage all of you to announce when you have a new book. I want you to announce it as a new job. And guess what LinkedIn does? They let everybody in your circle know. They let everyone know that you have your author, new job on that. And I can't tell you, one of my VAs said, what in the world have you done? Do you know how many messages you have up on LinkedIn congratulating you and doing all this? I mean, it was just kind of a little fluky thing I did. But
It's brilliant.
what a way to keep your name out there. Those of you who are serial writers and authors to do that. So that might be a fun thing to share. Or maybe we can do a wild and crazy book corner tools. I love to share tools and ideas for authors on that. But just that and thank you for I forgot about our little forward conversation. By the way, forward is FOREWORD. Forward. Forward, as in marching, is the FORWARD. And I have to tell you, you are not alone. So many people do it. Publishers miss it all the time. I don't get it. I don't get why, but they do.
Well, I really appreciate that because I've been telling as many people as possible that please do not make the same mistake that I made. And sometimes they're not receptive to feedback
Oh
and
no. Oh,
they're
oh no.
insulted.
Yeah, they're insult. Well, let's go back to your things. People want to feel safe and they want to feel heard.
Yes.
And I so many times, Jacalyn, I would have people show me their book, and I tried to be really nice with them, and it just shouted out, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what were you thinking when you did this cover? What were you thinking? But I would always say, this is so great. I don't do that anymore. I will say, what were you thinking? Did you really think of who you're writing? You know, anyway, it's crazy. Right.
By the way,
Now,
we have a new TV show coming out with Alcini, and it's called What Were You Thinking? And I would love for you to be on there. It's coming out in September.
I'm game. I'm
Okay.
play.
Good.
I'm I'm totally game for this. All right, so let's talk about some other really fabulous things for authors. We're already starting to give you tips and tools. You always have to have other eyes on your work. I give you and LinkedIn. She is so right. LinkedIn, and here's another thing I know. People who are looking to have podcast guests are looking on LinkedIn, hosts and producers. So, do you have in your profile, dear author, you're a podcast guest? I'm just asking.
Important. It's true. It's true. When I first started out, it was Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. That was the name of we had one
Oh,
show, then two shows. And my father's name was Jack. And when he was alive, my friends and I, we would pull our chairs around and we would say, we're rapping with Jack. So it's kind of a tribute to him. It was Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. And so I would look for guests and I would go onto LinkedIn. And at one point, I was told that LinkedIn had 6 million coaches. And I don't know how many of them were actually certified, but it's a great place to actually find people who can be credible guests. And so when we have a new team member come on with a TV show and they'll say, well, how can I get guests? Well, we have publicists that'll send them, but really you can do some of your own work by going onto LinkedIn and putting in the search engine what you're looking for. And then I always tell people how to create an email from when I was in corporate. You say something really nice, congratulations on your success, and actually pinpoint something that you found out about them and what they're doing. And then put the request out there. I'd be honored if I could interview you on my show, The Corner Bookstore, for example. And then if you're interested, let's set up a time to meet, etc. So I think also for authors, making sure that your profile is visible and that it's exciting and enticing, that someone is looking for a guest, and if you don't put yourself out there, then no one's going to find you. Why are you hiding, by the way? You actually have a
mhm,
book that you either are trying to market and get people to buy, or you want them to know you.
I know. Yeah, exactly. And it's sometimes people don't understand the art of the sale, which is another thing, the art of connecting, which is always listening. And one of the tips, for example, if you have a bookmark, which I'm a huge believer of bookmarks at any type of event and signing. So when someone is reading the back of your bookmark, for example, you need to be quiet so they can listen to the words that are going through their head. Listening, listening does work both ways. And then you can speak. But they need to lift their eyes to you to give you permission now to start the engagement. I don't know if you ever get into that, Jacalyn, at all, but I see it all the time because I do a lot of bookstore events, that how authors miss the boat. There might be the reason why the typical book signing only sells 4 to 6 books. Did you know that?
I knew that from you when I spoke
Oh,
to you. And by the
oh,
way, I don't have a bookmark, which thank you for that tip, because I'm going to be making one, creating one as soon as possible. I actually am going to a peace conference tomorrow, and they've invited me to do book signings, which is kind of
yes,
last
yes, yes,
minute. So
yes,
I
yes,
don't have
yes.
the books. I'm going to have to carry on my back what I can. And I have,
Mhm.
if you see this behind me, I actually have one of these that I use, not USA Global, but one for Dr. Jacalyn and Elevated Listening. But
Perfect.
so I'm not, I guess what I'm saying to you is, I don't know that I'm prepared the way I should be to do a book signing. Do you think I should just throw 15 books in my bag and set up a Venmo thing? What are your thoughts?
Well, are you going to be handling the book sales?
So I would do my own book sales too. I'd have to have one of these. I have one of these things where it's a display and it's a Venmo or a Zelle, and you just.
Okay, you can do that. here's number one hint. I know we're obviously going to have to do another program with Dr. Jacalyn. But here's one of the things that for book signings that I advise all my authors. Please pre-sign all your books. That would be for you to do,
Oh.
Jacalyn. Pre-sign them all. Come up with I always love to sign. I use because I love the color purple, and I always sign in purple. All right, so I carry a half a dozen purple pens. You never know when the bloody things are going to run out. I pre-sign all the books. I come up with a little saying for each book. All I have to do when I'm there is to sign in their, don't date anything, by the way, just sign their name. You can just add their name in. You can immediately lift your eyes and engage with them because listening involves eye contact, and engage with them for a few more seconds than normally they wouldn't have. But this is the smartest thing I ever did. And when I would go to an event, whether I had 50 books, hundreds of books, everyone was pre-signed. They all get pre-signed so I can easily handle it and have more time just to be present and with them. So find a pen you love and a color. Make sure you have multiple. I always like to take maybe a color from accessory color on a book cover. And usually all my book covers have purple in them somewhere. So it makes it easy for me. But that would be the first tip, I tell you. And then if you want to, when you get ready to do your book cover, send it to me and let me look at it. And I'll give you feedback. I've learned certain little tricks to do that. I would add a QR code to it, by the way. I would add now a phrase, please post a review on Amazon on it. And I would, your own contact information, what you want. See, there's a QR code. This is my little cookbook. Okay. There's a QR code. And it has, please post a review on Amazon in the banner. And I have a recipe for the book back there. Okay. So
that's terrific. By the way, I just picked up, I don't know, 5 tips from you right there. First of all, I always date the book. Always. Yeah. That's obviously a mistake. And second of all, I always sign and what am I going to put? What am I going to put? So typically I'll write, may you always feel appreciated and heard.
Okay. Tell me the name of your book again. The exact name.
So I have the first edition.
People can see it. Let's see it. Hold it up. Okay. Mastering the Power of Elevated. So it's a great title, by the way. That is a fabulous file. Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. So you could take one of your tips, or you could just pull something. I would use something elevated. It could be, Joyce, here's to increasing your elevated listening to the 4th degree. Something like that. That would do that you just kind of, you can actually sign them. I used to sign them watching TV show. All right. I'd bring a box in and I sign away and, I'd go and you're going, you're international. This is international travel.
So tomorrow I'm going to Minneapolis.
Oh, in the States. Okay.
Yeah. In the States. Right. And this, my new book for children just came out 2 days ago.
Love it.
This is the 9th book in the series for Lady Ella.
Ah.
So Lady Ella is actually my great niece. And now she's being joined by her brother because now she's a brother. So this is Lord Jack. So that's who the book is actually honoring. Okay.
So that, anything you're signing like that, you could, tie it in with your Lady Ella. Let's see, what, and the purpose of the book, the theme of the book is, this book?
So this book is about kindness, spreading kindness.
Kindness. Well, kindness always wins.
Oh, that's a good one. That's very good.
Something, and it could be let's celebrate kindness. And what's the National Day for Kindness? Do you know?
No.
Oh, there is one.
Yeah, okay. There definitely. I know there's one for listening. It's coming up soon.
I'm all ready to put a marketing program together for you. All right, so let's get back to you. Enough. I mean, okay. So what? I'm not supposed to hog. Okay, we want to do this. So other tools for authors that listening brings to the party. What are those?
That listening brings to the party. Well, I think listening to what your reviewers are saying and listening without emotion, because we get so attached to emotions, to feedback. And I just had a situation like this. You're not going to please everyone. Not everyone's going to like what you're doing.
Mhm,
And sometimes, especially, it could be your immediate family, your immediate circle.
mhm,
Maybe they're not even happy about the topic that you've written on, or maybe they have other feelings about it. It's okay. You're sharing your story from your perspective, typically. But I would say, if you're writing something that is nonfiction, that you really have to do your research. So listening to your intuition, which is, do I really know that information? Am I really an expert about that? Or do I need to actually get some references to back up what I'm saying? Because to me, our intuition really, sometimes it's screaming at us and we're not paying attention. So
mhm,
as an author, and even as a television show host or somebody who's in the media, you are someone that people can be admiring, or you're influencing people, and what you're putting out there is typically out there forever. So do your research, put on a shield, I would say, where people can punch or love or hug, whatever it is, and that you're not going to get absorbed into that. And I think that ties into judgment. And to me,
mhm,
judgment is one of the biggest challenges that we have as authors, as humans, is, oh, he's a New York Times best-selling author. Oh, she's an Amazon self-public. Okay, now we're labeling people. Obviously, people are on different
mhm,
journeys, and that's okay. Maybe the self-published author doesn't really know anything about what is the path to get into being recognized as a New York Times author. And I would think you'd have to have somebody like you, doctor, and other mentors who are guiding them, because that's an area I don't know anything about. I
mhm,
just know about self-publishing because it seemed easy. It was something that I could do myself and something that I could control, as opposed to maybe putting myself out there and getting rejected by a publisher. So I think I have to listen to myself as well. But
mhm,
just from the feedback that I've had from you, I know as an author, I have work that I have to do, and I'm open to doing it.
mhm. Well, I think that the stigma that used to be so attached with the self area, and those of you who've been with me for our show has been around for over 7 years now, but that to transition from saying I'm self-published, because what you're doing is you're honored to be published by an independent press that works with authors in your genres. All you need to say. Let's do that transition. I mean, I crossed the bridge on book 19. I was with New York, did all the stuff with New York for 18 books. William Morris was my agency, and I got a divorce. And I just decided there's another way, and I learned the business. So would I go back? Nope, nope, for a variety of reasons. Money is one of them, but timing. And I think the way our world, and certainly Jacalyn, you're in this, it's going so fast in so many things that if you are going with a traditional publisher, which means your booker is basically going to be out in 18 to 24 months from now, most of your material is old. It's old. And you really have to look at that closely. Where in the independent publishing market, if you've got your manuscript, you've got an editor in play, you've got designers in play that can compete with anything from New York, they're out there, that you can be out in maybe 4 months, maximum six, then you're current.
Mhm.
Then you're current. And I think that's so important. That, I mean, to me, that is a really selling point. I wouldn't buy any nonfiction book now from a traditional publisher because I know it's 2 years old by the time I get it in my hand. So
Excellent point.
that's my two bits.
I'm taking it all in.
Okay, so let's kind of I'd like to step into one of your workshops. I love the eyes rolling. I love the some of the things that you do. How long are your workshops?
Each workshop is a different length of time depending on what it is. So the judgment workshop is about 8 hours. And
Whoa.
yeah, that's so we break it up. We break it up. So if the ones I've been doing in person, we typically will have 3 different sessions. And then, of
Yeah.
course, people get really engaged in the role plays. And I specifically will pick role plays that really push people's buttons. So if I may give an example.
Yes.
So I set the stage for this role play, and I would just pick an individual to come up with me. And I said to everyone, I said, this is a subject that is going to get people upset, or they're going to be happy. It's a role play. So the instructions are as follows. Susan, your job is to say, yes, I have the time to listen to what you want to discuss, or no, this is not a good time. Let's set an appointment for next week, an hour from now. Are we understanding each other? Yes, I understand the directions. So I start off and I'd say, Susan, I've been thinking a lot about getting a very large neck tattoo that goes all the way around my neck. And I'm thinking of doing it probably today. Would this be a good time for us to have a conversation? A neck tattoo. Why would you do that? Would this be a good time for us to have a conversation? I don't believe it. With the way you look with your pearls and the way you carry yourself, you're going to get a neck tattoo. So it went on. So finally, the person was becoming unhinged and said, you know what? You must be white trash that you're going to walk around with a neck tattoo. So I just looked at the person.
Oh.
I said, would this be a good time? And the person walked out of the room and finally came back into the classroom and slammed her fist against the table. And everyone saw this. So I went over to the person and I said, how are you feeling right now? And she said, I'm just so disappointed in you. And I said, can you elaborate? And she said, the fact that you would get a tattoo and put it on your neck, I just have lost respect for you. And I said, do you realize that this is a role play? And she said, I can't stop myself. I just can't. And I said, so what are you saying about your feelings about people with tattoos? I don't like them. I don't want anything to do with them. I said, so maybe some people here, they're covered up. Maybe they have tattoos. Well, if I find out, that's going to be the end of it. So I went on to something else. And then I came back to it and I said, how do you feel now? She said, I think I've calmed down. And I said, what we witness here today is what's going on every single day in this world about something. You're upset about a neck tattoo. He's upset about a gun. She's upset about an abortion, on and on. And we're not listening to each other. So if you're going to take that stance that you just took, if you're carrying that into the world, you're putting out so much negativity. And now I know how you feel. I don't have tattoos, but I know how you feel about people with tattoos. And so does everyone else. How do you feel about that? And she said, I think I have a lot more to learn. But she was at least open to it. And that's the point, that most times people feel so strongly about something. So the end of the role play was, had you said that you had time, I would have said to you, Halloween's coming up, and I was just going to get a fake one to go with my costume. But you wouldn't give me the time. So you never heard me out, and you just judged me. And we'll be right back. No, I'm kidding. So that's what I say on my TV shows.
Well, okay, so that's like plot point. Wait,
Yes.
right. So role playing can be way fun, but her demonstration really illustrates we all have our own little biases. The tapes are running in our heads, and we meet people who are different, or we already assume they think differently than we are. You may be setting yourself up for a total downfall that could be the ultimate connection you've been looking for, but you've already negated it. I mean, that's what I see could come out of all of that on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, because I'm also a certified coach, I knew that at the core, there was something about tattoos from this person's past that had created this anxiety and this fear. And there was. And so the person had never dealt with it or talked about it. And so had this grown up with this thinking about tattoos, that it was evil and that you were being labeled or stamped or numbered and so that's really what it had to do with.
Wow. Well, there you go, everybody. You have that. But you surprised me going down the tattoo line, and we all have opinions. And I know for me, I get stuck if I see too much metal on a face. That and I have to work through that this person may have something really important to say, and I need to be listening. We have to. And when I'm in bookstores all the time, boy, the demonstrations of ink, I know, which is what they call it.
Hmm.
I mean, I compliment people on their ink. Would I ever have ink? No, no, no. Actually, because I used to work in a hospital and I saw what it looked like 30 years later.
Exactly. I don't have any either. But during the pandemic, I decided to watch the Netflix show, not a paid spokesperson, but it was called The Ink Master. And I think I'd run out of things to watch, but it was very interesting to watch what it is, the reason that somebody wants to get something, and then how long it takes to get it in some cases, how many
Oh yeah.
hours they're working
Oh,
and the pain they go through. So at
oh
least
yeah.
I have some kind of background now, some knowledge that I didn't have before.
Oh, oh yeah. And look at some of these tattoo artists are really artists. I mean,
Yes,
some of the stuff they do is awesome,
it's true.
really awesome.
I
This,
agree.
if you want to wear it, my attitude is you go for it. You know, I'm fine. It is just go for it. It will work for me on
Yes.
that. All right. So on the I know I'm watching my time here, and I want to see if there's some other things that might come out of it. Let's going back to your four key elements on those, which I think were don't interrupt it, don't hog it, don't be judgmental. And what was the other one? Let's see. Hog it.
Stage hogging,
Yeah,
problem
stage hogging.
solving.
Oh, problem solving. Don't be the fix it. You know.
Exactly.
And this is, by the way, where I have to be careful because when I see stuff, I'm like, okay, let me give you an idea. You know, am I safe to say anything or what? And you just have to learn which way to go. But I if people come to me and they have a problem, and problems make the world go around, if I think I have a solution or I might help them through that way, I will offer it if they ask for it,
There's the key.
typically.
There's the key, asking permission. So if I may share something about problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'd like your audience to think about, to consider is, first of all, you can't be listening at an elevated level all the time because it's exhausting. So
Yeah,
elevated listening is a gift. It's a gift. So if I say to you, doctor, I have something I really want to talk to you about. Do you have about 15 minutes to hear what I have to say? You could say, yes, I do. No, I don't. Then, if let's say you have the time, and you could say, would you like me to listen, or do you want me to give you my opinion? And I'd
exactly. And
say,
I've learned to do that.
yes, I'd really like you to just listen. So as I'm talking, let's say there's been a problem with, I don't know, the plumbing. And you might think to yourself the whole time you're thinking, oh, yeah, I had a problem with plumbing too. You know what? I have a plumber she
Yeah.
can call. So now you totally checked out and you were not listening to anything I said about the plumbing, because it really wasn't about the plumbing. It's how I was feeling about the situation. So you were thinking, I'll be really, and this is a hypothetical, you were thinking, I can help her tremendously by referring her to Dan, the plumber that I've used. But meanwhile, I already have a plumber, and I just wanted you to listen because it was a frustrating process with the water overflowing. So then we're not on the same page.
Hmm. I think what you just said is so essential. Do you want me to just listen, or do you want me, or do you I would use, or do you want my input? That was the word I use. Because I remember one time writing an article Jacalyn called "I'm fed up with feedback." Would give all this feed. I didn't want feedback. I just wanted to, back to your plumbing. I just wanted to express my frustration on that, which is so important. So great. There's some great tips. I hope you all are taking notes with some of these little elements. There's gems that we're picking up when we go along. Well, so you see all kinds of people, authors, as well as others out there that you probably have a variety of, like a dictionary of people who attend your workshops. But how about self-doubt? Is self-doubt growing, do you think, among people, or the uncertainty, whether it's self-esteem issues or confidence, or they don't think there's any resolution or solution to some of this stuff, and they feel like screaming? So how can we take care of some of those things?
That is a great question. And it's so funny because you and I didn't have this conversation previously, but I'm a peace ambassador and I've been taking
Mhm.
very high impact training, I would say, meaning that you have to be completely aware. And so with this training that's every Saturday, I was thinking about inner peace. So when it comes to elevated listening, my goal is for people to find inner peace. And in order to have inner peace, you have to be at peace yourself. You have to
Mm.
love yourself. You have to believe in yourself. And what I found out was that inner peace is only a component of true peace. True peace being environmental peace and societal peace and inner peace all coming together. That's where true peace is. So if you don't love yourself, if you don't do self-care, if you're not doing affirmations and meditations, and if you believe in a higher power, you believe in the universe, you have practices that you do on a regular basis so that you continue to celebrate you, then you're part of the inner peace that's broken. And so we already have societal peace that's broken. We have environmental peace that's broken, and you're broken. So let's work on ourselves first. And to me, I'm now taking it to another level, which I just decided this morning. I'm going to be doing a hypothesis. Someone told me recently that God doesn't love you unless you go to church. So
Oh.
I
Oh
went to
my
church on Sunday to see, because I haven't been
God.
in a long time, to see what the relationship is between God and peace. But this all starts with us loving ourselves first. So now, taking it to a whole new level, I'm going to be researching, are people who attend church on a regular basis happier than people who do not? So going back to your question, it's all
Oh.
about believing in yourself as opposed to being swayed by what other people believe.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, the church issue is always, it's interesting. It's interesting. One of the fastest growing groups of out there is the nuns. And then and for all of you, that's the NONE, that we're not affiliated
Mhm.
with the church. We have a spirituality side, maybe to us, they may say, but we don't want to be affiliated with the church on it, because there's so many things that churches have got involved in that takes away their inner peace. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree with that. It's
Um,
growing. The NONES is growing.
yeah, it was well, and I hadn't even heard of it. It came up at a dinner party one time, and my rules are anything goes. Anything is talkable about. I have a foodie group that we get together every couple of months, and we call ourselves the Pigs. We are the politically incorrect group supping. Any anything can go on the table. There are no restrictions for topics or whatever. And we've been together for years, and we're all over the place. And the nuns came up at one of those, and I'm going, you mean like, the habits? And I know they're out of habit. No, Judith, it's the nuns. Okay. So I love learning new stuff. All
That's
right. So what you look at you're dealing with cameras a lot. Any tips that we can live with authors? We've got like 2 minutes here. That on dealing with media, with podcast, to reaching out, and remember everyone that we're going to encourage you to go visit the USA Global TV, usaglobaltv.com, and start exploring what's here. And maybe that some of their podcasts would be the perfect fit, that you should reach out and say, yoo-hoo, I'm here. So maybe
absolutely. So what I would suggest, if you're going to be a guest on any of our shows, I would suggest you show up 10 minutes in advance because we like to make sure that everyone's audio is clear, that their video. Sometimes people will have their phone, they're doing the podcast, the TV show from their phone, and they look
No,
this big. You
no,
people
no,
don't
no, no.
understand it's going to be out there forever. So be open to the feedback. Make sure that
Mhm.
you can access the link beforehand. So we stream on StreamYard. Make sure that you can get on StreamYard because you might have to have Chrome or Safari, whatever it is. Make sure you can get on first, and then make sure that you're happy with your environment, what's behind you. It's depicting you. People are going to be studying what's behind you, what's out there.
They do.
They do. And then the other thing I want to say, and then I'll wrap it up, is that we ask people to speak for 2 minutes or less, and then let the host get a question in. So thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
So there we go. All right, everyone. Thank you, Jacalyn Kerbeck,
Thank
so
you.
much for good tips. We'll do this again for sure. All right, everyone. I'll see you next week for another fun show. Here we go. We're already moving into another month.